Chris Chan for KaijuPop.com, and welcome to this month in video gaming history as we take a look back through the summers to July of 1994. And you know what? July 94, slim pickings, really, I think mainly because of the World Cup that was still going on in America at the time, meaning there was a ton of games, but most of them were football games, and most of those football games were drivel. If you want a rundown of the football games that are coming out in July 1994, and there were a bunch, have a look at the full written feature that goes along with this month in gaming history on KaijuPop.com. But in terms of original releases in July 1994, this was undeniably the standout. Policenauts, which came out on NEC systems, NEC PC 98 computers, 98 series of computers, in July 1994. It would later come out a year later on the 3DO, first as a pilot system disc, which was just a demo with early art, and then as the full game itself with considerably improved visuals, animation, and more speech. And then following that, there would be versions for the PlayStation and the Saturn. So what we're looking at here is a mixture, a little bit off the start of the PC 98 version, and then a little bit of the PlayStation version. Again, full disclosure, this is somebody else playing this game rather than me, mainly because I do have Policenauts, but I don't have it in a format where I can actually capture it, because I've got it as a PSN game on my PS3. But don't have any fancy capture card gimmickry, so yeah, we're watching somebody else play here. Policenauts is a, well, I mean, it shows Hideo Kojima's love for anime, and you know, it's an anime-driven point-and-click, kind of a point-and-click adventure game. It's probably what we would call in the West a point-and-click adventure game, and it's closer to what people would call in Japan as a sound novel. It's not quite a sound novel. Sound novels typically tend to be a bunch of text overlaid on, you know, a couple of animated videos with a little bit of, you know, this Policenauts has more interaction than a sound novel. Sound novel always seems like a weird Japanese term, by the way. Like, I think probably because they went, well, graphic novels, you can't really call them graphic novels because you know, that's what a comic book is, or that's what manga is, so let's call it a sound novel. And then you'd kind of go, well, what's a book on tape then? I don't know, but anyway, I digress. Policenauts kind of follows the tale of you know, this guy, hopefully as I splice him in here, and he is a former policeman, space policeman turned private dick, and he's out to investigate the mysterious death of his ex-wife. And you do that by going from Earth to this space station, and then you know, going around there and unraveling the conspiracy. Basically, that really entails to, you know, moving a cursor around the screen and clicking on everything on the screen, and then listening to an awful lot of dialogue, most of it optional, but some of it that pushes the story on. There's not much in the traditional point-and-click sense of puzzle solving, you know, a little bit here or there, but yeah, and occasionally there'll be a sequence where, you know, it'll suddenly cut away to an action sequence, and you'll have to shoot something very quickly by guiding crosshairs over something. But this kind of shows Kojima's flair for this cinematic, or the desire to create the cinematic, perhaps over and above the gameplay and mechanical. You know, I think if you're a detractor of the Metal Gear series, and there are many, then you would say, well, Kojima really wants to make a movie, and this is closer to that, him creating a narrative experience. But it's still very well praised and very well regarded for its story, as well as Snatcher, which was a contemporary. I guess Policenauts is kind of a spiritual successor to Snatcher. The difference between this and Snatcher is Snatcher did actually make its way to the West, and Policenauts never ever did. it was only ever released in Japan officially. There was supposed to be an English translation of the Saturn version of the game, but that never came to pass, unfortunately. And that meant an English version, an official English version of Policenauts lingered in limbo forever and ever. And it was actually translated in 2009 by the Policenauts Translation Project. So it was a group of fan subbers getting together and actually translating and releasing a patch. So if you're resourceful and you have the PS1 version of the game, or you have it available to play on an emulator, then you can actually get hold of Policenauts in English, but not otherwise. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult to strongly recommend, particularly because it's difficult to play in English. And even in Japanese, it's a little bit slow going in places. Some of the pacing really needs picking up, but certainly this was different to any other fare that was coming out at the time, and the production values were phenomenal. So if you want to get a look at some of Hideo Kojima's sort of pre-Metal Gear Solid, but not early work, because he'd been around since the 80s, but that sort of midterm when he was coming into his own as a director, then Policenauts is a really interesting one. But let's move on to something a little less creative. Well, if our last game of Policenauts was a little bit too creatively ambitious, here's something a little bit more down to earth. Only the second of 5 Mega Man games to come out in 1994. This coming out mid-July, Mega Man 5 on the Game Boy. The world's in chaos again. There's bloody the enemy robots, all those star droids. There's a really long intro cutscene to this, but let's just skip through it. Charge attack, Mega Arm, blah blah blah. You haven't got the blaster. This is different. Mega Man 5, also known as Rockman World 5 in Japan. Different to the other 4 Mega Man games on the Game Boy, whereas the other 4 Mega Man games were kind of, highlights and compilations of some of the NES, Famicom, Rock Band, Mega Man, whatever you want to call them, games. This is actually an entirely new Mega Man adventure, where there's 4 star droids to take out with your Mega Arm. Mega. It looks quite nice for a Game Boy game. It's got that same the usual KG and Fourier returning art, and it moves fairly swishly, and just like every other Mega Man game, fairly smooth, nice controls. It's the visuals are reasonably sort of they're bright enough. It's certainly difficult enough. There we go, bastard. Here we go. Let's get that. Come on. They feel sort of distinct enough that you can see what was going on the Game Boy screen, although obviously this isn't an original Game Boy screen. So, the effect is a little bit different. You don't have the motion blur that... Crapping balls. Regenerating enemies are annoying, aren't they? I'm just going to embarrass myself here. I can get a little bit further usually in Mega Man games than this. Honestly. It's like this bastard, the knockback from things falling over, and the fact that this absolute shithead of a bird is regenerating at every turn is quite annoying. But what? Really? Oh, those are spikes. Oh, okay. Dead already? Oh no, look at that. That's the worst password system ever. Luckily you can continue as much as you want. Yeah, it looks quite nice for a Game Boy game. It is as solid, or was sort of received, as hey, it's another solid Mega Man game. But this was a series that was being run into the ground, and even though we were done with 8-bit Mega Man games, 8-bit console Mega Man games at this point. We were still seeing the Game Boy ones, and then, you know, as a concession to, oh hey, the original Mega Man is getting old hat. Oh, here's Mega Man X on the Super Famicom, or Rockman X or whatever. And so, oh, you bastard. Yeah, it's always this thing. I never really. I can understand the nostalgia for Mega Man because they are tight and good and challenging platformers. But at the other side, at the other end of it, this was, you know, as creatively bankrupt as design got in 1994, and so fucking hell, it's hard not to kind of view it with the cynicism that I think these were probably being produced with at this point. There was a formula that was being adhered to. I should just probably choose a different stage. There was a formula that was being adhered to and that worked. But yeah, it's no really small wonder that, you know, that everybody was willing just to give it a rest, and it's still shit. Every time I play a Mega Man game for one of these episodes, I'm reminded of that, and I'm more and more sort of cynical over what Mighty Number 9 will be when that finally comes to surface. But still, oh crap, for the time, a decent Game Boy platformer, but as ever, I'm always rubbish at these games, and then having to talk about them at the same time, it's just not happening really. Come on, let's make one last run here. Slow down, and we're being knocked back on hits with every platform game here. Now, get the what? Oh, you fell down the thing. Oh no. There we go. No. Oh, we can slide. That's a new thing. Yeah, I mean, like earlier in the year, we even had the pre-World Cup, let's cash in on the World Cup thing, having talked about World Cup games earlier on in the show. You know, there was already, at this point, we had Rockman Soccer. So, yeah, it's very, 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 I don't know, very cynically produced. I think really it was probably a lot of the real fondness for Mega Man has come from the PlayStation era, to be fair, and you know, it's things, spin-off stuff, you bastard, like you know, like Trombone, which was a great and completely weird 3D action game. I think has kind of molded the view of what Rockman, Mega Man is and was. But yeah, there's I hate to sound controversial about it, but there was nothing particularly, you know, this was not the bastion of originality and creativity in video games in 1994 on the original release. And I'm just about to die, I think, for the last time here. Yeah, there we go. Mega Man 5 on Game Boy this month. Rounding us out this month is a rather more creative platformer in the form of Super Bonk, or Super Cho Genjin as it was known in Japan. The Japanese release was this month on Super Famicom, and then a Western release came later on. Super Bonk is the continuation of the Genjin series of games, BC Genjin as it was known, and this is by Hudson Soft, who had produced kind of a, you know, their original target was to produce a sort of character action platformer, you know, a sort of yeah, a mascot style figure for the PC Engine. And that was kind of the pun. Genjin Engine was the pun, so BC Genjin, PC Engine, get it? And then of course in the West, the PC Engine wasn't the PC Engine, it was the TurboGrafx 16. So he became Bonk. It was a sort of PC Engine TurboGrafx exclusive game for consoles, but that did make its way to other systems, especially home computers, where it was known as BC Kit, if you want to get even more confused about it. And they were sort of very novel, bizarre platformers where you played this, I don't know, caveman type. And here Bonk is running around in modern times, and the gimmick is all sorts of mad effects going on depending on what he eats. So normally his weapon is this big old head of his, but he can also bite into scenery to launch himself upwards, and there's all sorts of effects going on here. So you already saw. You want to headbutt these flowers in order to get extra things for power-ups. Fruit that gives him more health, but also, as you saw earlier on, and as you're going to see here, the mega meat pack that drives him crazy gives him invincibility. The power-up that grants him the ability to go absolutely massive. So this was before the Mega Mushrooms in Mario, in the new Super Mario games. I can't remember how you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to just jump, right? And so yeah, there was a real appeal here to just create something very, I guess at the time you'd call it very Japanese. It's just but it's when at a time where Japanese, especially Japanese platformers, were just weird. And wonderful, and kind of, you're just awesome. The controls aren't amazing, they're a little bit stodgy, but it's just this continuous creativity that I love, especially about Super Bonk. And like, this wasn't, I mean, it was the same with the other Genjin games, on the PC Engine beforehand. They were kind of a little bit weird, a little bit wacky, and all about being eaten by a dinosaur, and then sort of having to work your way through his intestinal tract and whatnot. But this was just took things to a whole new level of bizarre. It was the debut for the Genjin character to appear outside of the PC Engine, console-wise anyway. And oh no, I gotta get to the exit. I'm gonna run out of time. And yeah, it's just, I think you've probably already seen so far enough of the game to make you realise certainly why I like it. It's just really openly weird, and that's amazing. Although this cloud's a bastard. Clouds are right fucker. There you go. There we go. Get the fruit. You gotta get the fruit and the happy faces. Get that run. I wasted so much time before now, you see. Oh, no, I'm gonna run out of time. Jeez. I love Super Genjin so very much. It is hugely, immensely brilliant and weird. I think I want to go on this way, apparently, according to the arrows. Then there's this dude in the way. What do I do? Oh, I'll just go through here. I think I should do that. Oh, wow, okay. I want to keep on going through here. Yeah, even just the thing of not moving steadily from left to right the whole time, but being directed, not being completely lost. This isn't your kind of labyrinthine platformer, of which there were a few at a time at this time, but it is just more exploratory and then filled with these weird mini games, like pumping up this massive balloon in time. And there's kind of just look at it, it's got that kind of mildly grotesque kind of art style to things that I think is really appealing. Nah. Failed. I'm rubbish at these minigames. But we want to go down here. Down into the sewers. Yay. Ahead. Yeah, this bit, I played a little bit of Genjin 3, and this is kind of similar, and a lot of the stages actually are fairly similar, as I recall, but, you know, with new twists on things. So the dinosaur fella returns again in this game, and you do have to, again, be eaten by him, and then you know, fight your way through him until he poos you out. But you know, I mean, once you have a winning idea, I think you should stay with it, probably. Oh no, getting stitched. Oh, poor Bonk. But then another great thing. Hey, there's a novel idea. Don't just, you know, have us finish at the send us back to the beginning kind of thing, but instead let me continue to swim up this waterfall. Hooray! And sorry, yeah, this is one of those games where you kind of forget to talk as you're playing it, just because every time something weird happens, and now he's tiny and he's pissed off. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. This game is so good. And yeah, I think kind of unjustly, probably because of its roots on the PC Engine, that even though, oh hello, everything's turned into stone and gone bad, oh no! This isn't good at all. Quickly, PC Engine. Yes! Turn into giant caveman, baby. Brilliant. What? Oh, now I'm Godzilla smashing stuff. Ah, this game is great. How can you not love this game? And how come it's just not as talked about? But it isn't. And it was, if I remember correctly, this was actually there was a new Bonk game that came out recently on 360 and PS3, and that kind of surfaced without much fanfare, and then kind of went away without much fanfare either. I don't know whether it was any good or not, to be honest. I'm part of the problem because I didn't get the game. Yeah, 8 smileys. I guess I have 8 smileys. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. What do I have to do? Yes. There we go. Brilliant. Oh, this is brilliant. You got enough smileys, you just skip through whole sections of the game. Yeah, sorry, I should probably stop just so this entire video doesn't turn out to be half an hour long, but the undisputed highlight of July 1994, even with Policenauts, is without a doubt Super BC Genjin or Super Bonk. It's well worth seeking out even today. Chris Chan for KaijuPop.com, where you can find a full written feature covering the best of what was happening in July 84, 94 and 2004. Thanks for watching, bye!